Logic and Reason starts now. Salutations, everybody. Welcome into the show today. Salutations, everyone. I am Reason. I'm joined by Logic. We are Logic and Reason. Before I get too deep, I do want to remind everyone to like and subscribe. We're predominantly on YouTube, but today is the first day that we're actually live streaming to Facebook. So we are now simulcasting. This is a new venture for us.
Yes.
Definitely some learning tools
New
needed.
and exciting.
It is new and exciting. So now you can join us on Facebook or YouTube. If you have any comments or whatever, we should be able to see them in theory. We'll see how that goes. So today's topic, we're talking about why important subjects become politicized. And what kind of brought us to this point was this idea of the extreme heat that we're experiencing right now, especially in Houston, because Houston's already hot during the summertime. Our real hot month is usually August. And so feeling this type of 100-degree weather on a daily basis is a little too early. I guess you can have it, but to have consecutive days is kind of concerning. We're not getting hit as bad as Phoenix. Phoenix is getting its tail kicked. And they're pushing through records. Now, we have a lot of heat records being broken throughout the world. And it kind of made us think about this tabooed subject, which is global warming and climate change. And when you say these terms, people will like to voice their political opinions on these things. And it's unfortunate because, this is a very serious subject that we're now, physically seeing the consequences of. But it's too politicized now. Everyone kind of divides themselves between, what side of the aisle they're on. So we wanted to ask the question and kind of figure out how we got here. And then maybe figuring out a way to move into a more positive direction. As far as what we can do about climate change, I might dive into a little bit of that today. But from what I've read, it doesn't seem like there's much that we can do at this point. It seems like it's one of those things where the train has left the station and that's it, right? So that's all she wrote. And we're just now in this new space. So why do you think subjects like climate change gets politicized?
Honestly, I think the politicians are, I was going to say selfish, but that doesn't really describe why. I think that politicians like to keep us being the general populace, just fighting. And they can do what they want to do. And then we don't actually focus on the real issues. Well, I don't know if that's their intent, but that's what happens, is that we end up not actually trying to work together on a solution and seeing how bad it really is. Or maybe they're trying to avoid, let me be more positive, maybe they're trying to avoid hysteria. So if everyone knew how bad it was getting, maybe some people, definitely some people can't handle it. Maybe a greater number can handle it. And people might start freaking out.
I think I remember the first politician that I can recall that spoke about this was Al Gore in the early 2000s.
Yes, and they said he was crazy.
And he said he was,
Excuse me.
he was running for president, for those who are young. Started dating myself.
We don't know how old y'all are out there, but
some of you probably weren't born yet. But anyway, so Al Gore was running for president.
I want to say he even lost him the election, but yeah.
I remember him talking about it, and I think at that point it wasn't on the public consciousness. We didn't really know what he was talking about.
Yeah, and it wasn't really mainstream yet to be talking about climate change in that way. Mm-hmm. There were some environmentalists, but the group or the category that they put him in was some box of like a nutcase of like he has these crazy like what we put people who have the conspiracy theories in today.
Yeah. So, and it's unfortunate because what ends up happening is you get this branding of people who are concerned with climate change are Democrats, and the people who, I don't want to say it's, I hate to put this between like, oh, you either love trees or you love business, because it usually the other side to this aisle, the Republican side, either want to question our activities as far as its involvement with this, or it's stifling business. I know from something I read that the reason why it took us forever to advance with electric cars is the fact that the oil industry was like, yo, this is kind of our bread and butter, we need some money, so can we chill out on this technology, because the technology was available for us in the 80s. And I hope that it's deeper than that. I would hate to, the reason why we destroy our planet is because of just money, but that seems to be
so your theory is it's more there's money behind it. So I guess that would be a motivating factor.
Well, why would we not? Okay, so let's just run through the scenario, right? Okay. This guy who's running for president, right, shows up and says, hey, everybody, we have this big threat that's going to hit our grandchildren. It's called climate change, and it's due to the fact that we've been burning fossil fuels. And these fossil fuels are causing this greenhouse gas thing, right? He's using a bunch of terms, throwing them at you, right? And then, the effect of this is it increases our temperatures, and then it causes a bunch of chaos and mayhem, right?
Yeah.
Well, who uses fossil fuels? I mean, fossil fuels are how we get most of our energy, and who's trying to shut down our energy, right? Like, people like at that time we didn't have iPhones, but, we like our air conditioning, right? We like our lights at night if we want to read and do homework. We like the internet, right? Because we had internet for those who might not. They may not think we have that. Right. We want to charge our Walkman. You guys remember Walkmans?
Walkmans.
Yeah. And so this idea of, the way to resolve this issue is if we start to turn some of that stuff down, and start conserving. I can see why, as an adult in that situation, you're probably just like, well, I don't even know what you're even talking about.
Yeah. Turn it down to what?
And it's like, what are you telling me? I can't use these devices that make life easier? The businesses are like, hey, I'm making lots of profits from this. I'm providing, because, part of the profits part is the fact that you are providing a benefit to society. You're burning these fossil fuels, but the benefit you're giving to society is electricity, right? So there's this weird balancing act thing where it's like, well, if what I'm doing is so bad, then how come there's so much good in it? Now we fast forward to 2023, right? So that's 23 years after that moment in history. And now we're in a situation where we're having record heat days across the world. Europe had some serious issues with heat last year. They did a study out where they were measuring the different effects of death, like weather-involved deaths around the Mediterranean, and I think that statistic said it was like, was it 62,000 people died along that region last year due to heat. We're feeling the heat, right? The hurricanes are tougher, right? We're having random bouts of tropical storms. I remember was it a month ago? We had a tropical storm, if you want to call it that.
Down, it was just pouring.
It only lasted for 5 minutes, but it was the most random thing did y'all remember that? It was the most random thing I've ever seen.
Let us know in the chat if you do remember. I mean, it damaged a bunch of trees and
people's property got messed up.
Property, of course,
And literally, if you went to sleep, you would have missed it because it didn't last long. I was in the elevator when it happened, and I thought I was going to die because the elevator started to freak out, and eventually it stopped. But it was just random. There was no sign. It wasn't like there was the clouds get all gray and you start to to see things change. The birds start leaving. You're like, oh, something's about to go down. This thing just happened fast. It's like, boom, smacked you in the face, and then it walked out. And I don't know if I've ever experienced that before. And I would hate to see this be a continual thing where you just randomly are walking down the street, enjoying your day, and then the next minute you get smacked in the face with wind and rain, right? Because of these random occurrences of extreme weather. The droughts. I mean, we had some droughting issues earlier this year, and this year just started. But last year we had some drought issues.
Well, I mean, we're halfway through. Yeah. It's enough. It's fair enough to mention that.
But last year there was a picture that was taken from what was it? Lake Travis in Austin. And Lake Travis is this man-made lake, and people, they take their boats in it, you swim in it, and this picture had the whole lake was dried up.
I could not believe that was the same lake. Remember, I kept asking you like 3 times, oh, no, wait, but what lake, what's the name of it? And you're like, that's it.
That was it. And so I think we're at the tip of this iceberg, right? We're not really seeing what this effect is. And I think when we start seeing crops like just die out en masse, right? Because right now farmers are having issues with growing crops right now because of the droughts and whatnot. And of course, forest fires and those random fires that happen in the Mediterranean, just from dry vegetation.
Yeah, everyone's getting a little bit of it, like everywhere. Just
But like watch when you start seeing like corn start to become an issue, and then no more strawberries, no more peaches. The oranges are already suffering right now.
Yeah.
The grocery store is going to start getting hit really hard, although it's already getting hit hard now, but it's really going to start getting hit hard.
Yeah, versus attributing those prices to just inflation, but it's all part of it.
And then, because the livestock eat these vegetables, right? Like especially like corn and things like that. We're going to start seeing meat prices go up. It's going to be a cascading effect of things because these things are all interconnected. So then it becomes, your typical grocery store visit that may have cost you $100 for your family, and now it costs $300. And then you're going to have starvation in well-to-do countries. And then on top of that, heat. And then don't have a situation where, like what we experienced a couple of months ago, where you had an overexhausted grid.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden people start losing power, and you're losing power in 100-degree weather, right? Where it's like, it's not very livable, especially with humidity. And then you have people just dying just because we couldn't provide them power and their air conditioning was off, right? So it's like, this is going to get real. I mean, if it's not already real now, it's definitely going to get real. I don't know what the timetable is, but I know some people are saying that it's going to start really punching us in the face 10 years from now. I don't know if that's true or not.
It's
Nobody
real
can.
enough for me. I don't care what they call it, climate change, global warming, whatever. Like, I don't, like you mentioned, the politicizing is not important.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I'm mentioning all this stuff, because it's like, there's some serious issues that we need to resolve, but we can't resolve them because we're too busy fighting each other. We're too focused on, oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, at this point, we shouldn't be debating on whether this is real or not.
What about
hoping
those huge hailstone blocks? They came down in Atlanta earlier this year.
Knocking people out.
Yeah, in the spring, like early spring.
It doesn't make any sense. Like the weather is just going nuts on people all over the place.
Oh, they were knocking people out and damaging cars like heavily. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have baseball-sized hail coming from the sky and not expect it to knock somebody out. Like it's traveling too fast. It's traveling at the speed of gravity.
Wow.
Something that size traveling at the speed of gravity is lethal. Like that's not that shouldn't be falling from the sky.
Dang.
And so, now, what's the solution to that, right?
Because we're about solutions and at least prep and being aware. Informed.
So, what is the solution to this? How do we come to the table? How do we even resolve this? Obviously, we're going to need scientists involved with this, and maybe they're going to be upset with us because they've been saying the same message over and over again, and we just don't listen to them. Maybe some of it got muddy because maybe they got purchased by some corporation or business or nonprofit that was biased, and so they wanted to fund their research to say things a certain way, and maybe that caused some muddiness in the water. It's why people either don't trust some of these scientists or just don't even trust, just the information that's out. I know one of the issues, well, we saw this with COVID, right? There's a complete lack of trust with our government. So if our government even came out and said some stuff, I mean, I looked up a bunch of stuff on different government websites, and I know somebody in the comment section is probably like, oh, well, they're biased and yada, yada. And it's like, see, there has to be a source that we trust.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a source. If it's not the government, then who, what, like, where? Like, how do we collectively get the same set of facts that are vetted? And so maybe part of the problem that we have is the fact that our information sources are all over the place. No one trusts any outlet except for the one that that says the thing that they want us to hear, and then we don't go anywhere.
You can trust us.
Yeah,
If you notice, we don't actually worry about whether you like to hear certain things. We just discuss it in its truth form, however it comes out.
Yeah.
So
I will say that part of the issue with Democrats as it relates to this climate change thing is, they harp on stuff that no one cares about.
true.
Right? Like, just full disclosure and just being real.
Excuse me.
No one really cares about trees. Now, I don't take that as me saying that trees are not important. That's not what I said. I said no one cares about trees, right? Trees have extreme importance in our ecosystem, right? You can look that up if you want to. But the unfortunate part is a lot of people don't know the significance of trees. And I would say probably because the public school system is trash. It doesn't really teach anybody anything really about the world around them. But, you might need to change your message to actually talk about stuff that impacts people. Like, for instance, the light grid thing, right? Now, I would say after the freeze that happened last year, at least Texans are now concerned about this light grid. Maybe before that point, people were just like, what's a light grid? Who cares? Right now, like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, what's ERCOT? Nobody cares.
What's an ERCOT? What's a this? What's a that? But now I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I now see the effect of this, and we got to resolve this, whatever this light grid issue is, right? I would say that would be, I want to say that's a positive effect with something that happened that was horrible, but.
Well, it's positive that it was, it's a smaller version of what maybe is to come. So, like, we don't have to actually experience the worst, hopefully, to understand. Maybe we accept now, okay, things are changing. We need a better infrastructure for some of these potential weather, climate issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Obviously, unpleasant experience for a lot of us, and some people had to take longer to recover, and I know they were, well, like you said, without power and everything else. So, yeah, short term, awful. Long term, we can plan and do other things. And you're right. I've seen more people change from, oh, what's ERCOT and all this stuff to, excuse me, to asking, what is ERCOT doing? What's the governor doing?
Yeah. So that's one. I would say definitely food and cost of living. I don't think people kind of put two and two together on those things, but I think if you showed people the direct consequence of a drought to the grocery store, which seems like very basic science, but maybe people just overlook it. Okay. That would go a long way too. But I also think that we need to have a serious conversation about the things that we enjoy. A lot of you who watch this show, we've noticed that, that you guys watch this on mobile. And the phone is a very revolutionary device. It's changed a lot in our society. The downside is this phone has also caused a lot of issues. I can't understand to the life of me why people still text and drive. I mean, I just, at this point, there's so many cases of people killing themselves because they're looking at their phone instead of driving.
A huge no-no.
There's laws already in place that make texting and driving illegal, but no one cares, right? Because unfortunately, in order for you to really even get charged for something like that, the police officer has to see you do it. So you're in your own car, you're driving on a freeway, there's not a cop around, you can text until your heart's content while driving, and then, as long as you don't get caught, no one's the wiser. And so you hit somebody, and then your body goes flying out of the windshield, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, maybe I should have actually paid attention to the road.
And then it becomes a serious issue for your loved ones.
Yeah. We create a show that is posted on social media. But if any of you guys have seen that documentary that came out, I guess now is like 2 years ago, The Social Dilemma.
Ooh.
And the issues that younger people have, and I would say even older people now at this point, with deciphering what is reality and what is not. Getting influenced by people they don't even know. Right? That's a problem. This OnlyFans thing became a huge hit during COVID. Which is very surprising. For one, I don't know how there's enough people who watch OnlyFans to support all these OnlyFans artists. But maybe there's a lot of dudes out there who like to pay for content that they can essentially get for free. I don't know. I don't know what the allure is. That's not any type of content I consume, but I know that the numbers are there. There's a lot of people who use the platform. There's a lot of people who make money off the platform. How this became a thing, I don't know. But it is. So we have a lot of things. I would say that our energy consumption is probably the biggest problem contributing to climate change. And unfortunately, I don't know what the solution to that is, because telling people to relax on the energy consumption, I mean, I'm using energy right now. I mean, I would be very hypocritical saying that. We're live streaming with a computer. We got a camera and lights and stuff. So it's like, I'm using up a bunch of energy right now talking to y'all. We have our phones on all day.
But is it hypocritical?
What do you mean?
Because we do have our phones on all day, but we don't keep this equipment on all day and just leave it
You're right.
out. I mean, I know.
We don't.
And it's not some exaggeration. I believe that there are people in different businesses and entities that leave all the lights on the whole day. Like, if you just watch in the city at night, some of these buildings, and maybe some of it for safety and security, for their buildings, they have a bunch of lights surrounding the building and inside the building that are on. And I don't know if everyone shuts their computer down in every office, or how they do that to at least put it to sleep so it's not actively doing things. But I wouldn't say you're wasting a lot of electricity on a regular basis. I wouldn't put you in that category.
No,
but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it just being conscious. I mean, like I said, I don't know if at this point it even matters, because, like I said, the train has already.
If it would actually help if we all started reducing consumption a little.
I think any amount would help, but the train is already in motion, at least from what I've read. So it just seems like we're already past the threshold.
That's true.
And at this point, it would take a monumental shift of how our society functions right now in order for that to start reverting itself. I do know that at least in an immediate short term, what we could do is stop cutting down a bunch of the Amazon rainforest and replacing it with cash crops. That would be helpful. And the same thing in Congo and the same thing in Indonesia. That would be very helpful. But, that's asking a different country who has their own autonomy to, behave differently. And I'm very considerate of that, because America has been able to do whatever it's wanted to do for so long.
Yep.
So for an American to tell a Brazilian, hey, you can't do XYZ. Well, we've done XYZ for 100 years.
We've had our time enjoyed and didn't use as much as we wanted to.
Right.
And we could. Oh well, the ask changes, right? Oh, it's we've been doing it, but you shouldn't do it. Or okay, well you should do it, but then we want to profit from that.
Yeah. So that's where it's like, I don't know what the solution is. I have no idea. How do we, reverse course? The glaciers are already melting at alarming rates for a lot of folks.
So that's the thing. There's so many different facets because I think when you talked about the different weather, you said, okay, so now you're mentioning glaciers, but earlier was like the forest fires and coming from the heat waves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some stuff we can control, like tearing down the forest.
The other issue that we have too is, all right, so this warming thing impacts the ocean, and ecosystems are very sensitive, right? One of the things that I've noticed that at first I laughed, and then I was like, oh wait, maybe this is a more serious problem. There was videos that surfaced out of orcas attacking boats, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. It's like these orcas are out here destroying these boats. But then I had to think about it. It's like, why are these orcas so close to the shore? Like, usually these orcas are off, deep in the ocean doing their thing.
Okay.
But then I realized, well, because, our shifting of these ecosystems, what are the orcas eating? Like, where are their food? If the food moved, they have to go to where the food is. So it's like, maybe they're looking at the boats as competition because they're very smart creatures. So they're like, wait a minute, I'm trying to eat these fish. This boat is trying to collect fish.
Yep, because they know what they're doing.
Maybe the boat is my enemy. If I destroy this boat, then we have more fish. Right? And maybe they're thinking that way. Obviously, I can't talk to an orca because we don't speak the same language. But, how much of this are we going to see? They saw, I think Florida started to see a bunch of sharks that were swimming really close to the coast.
There was a span of a period that had people getting shark bites.
Yes.
Out of nowhere. And they're like, this usually doesn't happen in this area, but it was like a couple summers in a row.
But it makes sense because it's like, where are these apex predators going to get food? If you've killed off all the food.
We killed off the food. We took a lot of the places for our vacation spots.
Right. So then what happens?
Putting trash into their
area. So what are they going to do? They're going to start nibbling on you. You're next. Next man up. So it makes sense. Again, I don't know how we start reversing all this stuff because, are we just going to start just shoving fish back into the ocean? I don't know how that works. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah.
But I do know that it's just, if we don't figure out something, at least start actually, instead of just yelling at each other, actually start like trying to find solutions to these problems. This is just going to get worse. So I don't know. Oh, we have a comment section. We have a comment. It says, hello, folks. Great conversation. Very thoughtful and insightful. Thank you, John.
Welcome.
Yeah, John, just let us know, man. Like, have you heard anything about climate change? Just anything in general? Because also part of the issue that we have is we're so distracted now, right? There's so many things going on at once. And then all of a sudden we get smacked in the face with this major heat. And we're like, oh, wait, I forgot about this. Some old man was talking about this 20 years ago. And it's like, oh, now I'm actually starting to see it. It's in my face now. My energy bill is ridiculous. And so, that's kind of what at least got my attention. So I'm wondering what you think. But
yeah, that's also going to be a factor. Is the energy bill is going up? Are we prepared to segment a larger portion of our budget for that?
Yeah. And they were talking about how wages haven't increased in years. And so it's like, it's not like we're making more money.
We're going to have to be very creative.
I hope you guys are engineers because you're going to have to manufacture a way to.
Certain industries are not going to have that. Well, I don't know. I would say they're not going to have that problem, but I don't know the future. There's some other countries. I don't know. I want to say it was Japan that we saw that they were actually doing an interesting recycling system, but with like raw materials. Was it composting? I know some people do it here in the U.S. I don't know what the numbers are on that though, but I know you said it's probably going to be on a mass scale that it's necessary for it to actually make a huge impact because obviously this didn't happen overnight. And the little recycling bin even I use is not going to just do it. But I like to think, hey, I'm putting less into the little landfills and all the clothes and everything.
Oh, John
Keeping up.
has a comment. He says, I'm totally aware of climate change. In fact, I'm in Vermont. And so he had major flooding that's happening right now
Flooding right now.
in Vermont. Don't you guys have a lot of trees and stuff to kind of help with floods? I mean, I thought trees kind of helped with absorbing some of that water.
But also, is that even a norm to have any flooding during this season, or?
I don't know. I don't know Vermont like that. And that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate. That's interesting.
man. And let us know on the temperature as well too. I wonder if it's actually cooler or hotter than it has been in the past summers. Because who were we talking to? And it was, or I guess not who matters, but the region that they were in, and they said it's been a hotter temperature, probably Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, Las Vegas was getting hit super hard.
Yeah. I was like, no, I expect it to be hot, and they're like, no, but this is it was cooler for a while, and then all of a sudden, like
It was just baking. It was like it was ridiculous heat. Yeah, John is saying this is a major event. Yeah, I imagine so. I don't know.
Sorry to hear that.
I'm not sure if this is like a normal thing for Vermont, but that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy.
Land of Bernie. Land of Bernie.
I think. Yeah. No. Ooh, that's a good question.
They might be putting him in the wrong place.
I think Bernie might be Vermont.
I don't know. But yeah, you guys keep the comments coming. Also in the community post. So now I saw John, and I'm like, okay, yeah. He also gives us some good quotes and comments back. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where we would need to figure that out. I know New Jersey. If anybody's from New Jersey, let us know. But New Jersey was experiencing some flooding. It's actually a situation where both New Jersey and New York are actually sinking. Like the heavy weight of the concrete from the skyscrapers is actually causing the whole region to start sinking in, and so water is starting to come in. So it's going to be interesting to see how New York and New Jersey survive the next couple of years, especially if you start adding the fact that these oceans are going to be increasing like almost 2 inches every year or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I see he's adding
Yeah,
something.
John says that this is not normal, and yes, Bernie is their senator.
Okay.
Well.
Oh, and it just happened. The emergency was declared yesterday. Okay.
Okay.
So I was like, how did we? I'm like, we don't usually miss anything.
No, see, because John lives
happened.
there, right? He happens to be a resident.
Now, how long does it take for the news to put that one up, or is Vermont not?
Is the news going to even say anything at all? That'll be my question.
That's
right. I mean, it's just we get so distracted with dumb stuff, right? How easy was it to get information on the student loan thing not going through?
Way too easy.
Right.
Way too easy. And y'all, please don't volunteer to do any more interviews. You know what I'm talking about. Us, our people. No more interviews.
You do like to use us.
I wasn't prepared. I have no plan. I have no money, and I have X hundred thousands of dollars in student loans.
They do like to use us.
I do have empathy, but I don't think the people who are doing all these interviews and publishing them are genuine, or that they're actually going to help you. They're just using our face, and it's really a national issue.
Yeah.
So
we got that news almost in an hour, and it spread throughout Twitter. I saw people on Reddit talking about it. It was on national television. John's talking about what's happening in Vermont right now.
In real time.
I didn't know anything about this, and I'm really curious to see if we're going to see any news on this. And that's the dumb stuff I'm talking about, is we spend time focusing on stuff that doesn't actually matter. And this right here is impacting real people right now.
Yeah.
And we don't know about it. And it's happening in the U.S. It's our country.
I hate to say, but it's probably, if it does get into the news, or one of the earlier stories is going to be if there's a politician there that they don't like.
And that's an issue.
So they can be like, oh, see, he's failing, or she's
but
failing.
But that's an issue. This is what I'm talking about, like important things being politicized.
Yeah.
If that is in fact the case, we're in trouble.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not about that person. We want to know what
about
you're doing
the people
to help
that
the
live there.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a serious problem. And I again, kind of like with the climate change thing, I'm not sure how do we resolve that. How do we get our news outlets to be honest? How do we get our news actually no, more importantly, how do we get our news outlets to choose content that actually impacts society in a positive way, like where we actually are informed. I don't feel like I'm informed after I watch a newscast. How do we transition them out? Because I understand how we got here. We got clickbait and all this other stuff, and things have to be sexy.
Yeah.
Because we need eyeballs and dollar signs and advertisers and whatnot. I get all that, and it's all monetary, and yes, you have to pay your bills and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But we're now at a point where we're too far on this other side. Mm-hmm. We need to get back, and I don't mind a middle where we have a little bit of advertising stuff and then we have the real stuff. I don't mind that. If we can find some type of balance there where both sides are getting somewhat fed, and probably, both sides are not necessarily in a good negotiation. There's this moment where basically no one's happy, and that's usually the happy medium right there.
Yes,
it's like I didn't get everything I wanted.
As fair as you're gonna get.
You didn't get everything you wanted, but we got something, right?
Mm-hmm. Everybody got something. Well, I think you had one of the best answers to kind of the question you posed in there, or at least to a similar question about how do we change that with news specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and say it because you're probably like, what are you talking about?
Go ahead.
Well, you had mentioned, I want to say over a year ago now, that we had to get back to paying for news.
That was a different conversation. But yes.
Paying more, yes, that's why I was like, it's not the same, but similar enough of, paid news, or at least a little bit more money, a small newsletter here and there, something.
Yeah.
With truth.
John says that they are funded by fossil fuel companies. So, which, yeah, that is that's an issue.
That would make it a little difficult to publish how horrible, the fossil fuel companies are doing. Oil companies, now, John, pharmaceuticals.
John, I want to get your take on this. So, I know the UK has BBC, right? And the vast majority of BBC's income comes from taxes, right? So people pay a certain portion of their income to help fund the BBC, and in return, BBC gives them news, and they have, I think, a radio show, BBC, like BBC One or something like that, or Radio One, and they also get news, and they have correspondents that go all over the country to share the news of what's happening around the world. Do you think that the U.S. could do something like that? And actually, I'll ask you too, while we wait for John to type his answer.
Ooh. Oh, man. I would have to see how BBC came together. But it reminds me, actually, I don't know if it's, I think I've seen on their news as well, Al Jazeera. Mm-hmm. They have something about government funding on theirs. I'm trying to see what would actually make that a good long-term play.
Yeah,
because we're so divided.
We are
in like industries and in politics and everything, government. I mean, some of it I think is little games, right? Some of them are working together behind the scenes, and they just need to do their show for election purposes. But I don't know.
They have, so I don't know the formation, but I do know that if people aren't happy with the news director, they can boot him out.
Oh.
Right, like he or she is doing such a horrible job at whatever.
It sounds like voting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a government owned business.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a public thing. So you're a shareholder in a way.
Yeah. So in that scenario, would you also include commercials or no, like paid advertisement?
I don't think you have commercials. There's no need for it.
Okay.
There's no need for commercials in that system. Oh, John has his answer. So yes, I think we could. Democracy Now! is a good show. I've watched Democracy Now! Yeah, but not government funded. Okay, so you're saying more of like a privately funded, kind of like a Patreon, but on a bigger scale kind of thing. That's ultimately that's kind of what paid media is, right? Like whenever you get a subscription to Houston Chronicle, right? You pay money, and then in exchange, Houston Chronicle gives you access to their platform.
Okay, yeah, so there are subscription-based ones right now.
Yeah, so basically we just turn media into subscription-based content.
Yeah. Well, I guess we couldn't be able to do it on mass scale, like all of them, the outlets, but we'd have to have those types of, like the actual news places like Houston Chronicle, be more appealing. Because for whatever reason, I don't think I would have to check the numbers, but I don't think that there's enough subscriptions for people to get that news. Or
Well,
maybe people are just flipping to the entertainment part of it, and you tried.
well,
At least the
some of
information's out there.
I would say one of the bigger problems that the Houston Chronicle has, and it's no jabs for anybody who works at Houston Chronicle is listening to the show, but I'm speaking to power here. One of the issues with the Houston Chronicle is it's very hard to distinguish the real news with the opinion pieces, right? Yes, they slap that little word opinion, but the structure and everything else is verbatim the same.
I believe you.
And they interject it with the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the issues I had with them was the fact that they actually do endorsements for for elections.
That was weird.
And I'm like, you're a news outlet. You really shouldn't be endorsing anyone.
No, you should be giving informative pieces on them.
Yeah.
And comparisons.
And so that's, I can't speak on other. They're probably not unique. There's
I was
probably
gonna say the New York Times
New York Times has been disappointing.
Yeah, and I was like, and I have to look closely because I'm about to bitch about it, and then I'm like, oh, it does say opinion, but it's like a small little section. You purported to be a real article, a real news thing, and then I start hearing about something crazy. I don't even want to bring it because it would be a whole other conversation for the topic, but it was just weird, and I was like, I thought I was actually like reading a legitimate news source.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I think just for them in particular, and I would shove
Chronicle, I mean,
and I would shove New York Times in there as well. I've been very disappointed in some of their stuff. Mm-hmm. It's been very either biased or opinion based, which news is not supposed to be opinion based. I know I'm very old school in that, but I went to college before all this nonsense happened. So, we had an old school way of looking at things. But
I have another comment in there, but oh man,
PBS isn't great. That's what John says. Yeah, PBS is also kind of
it used to be the homie back in the day.
Yeah.
I might be hanging on to old shows and old news.
PBS has also had some very difficult time with funding.
Okay.
Because every single year, I don't know about every single year, but I know in recent time, the amount of money they receive from the government has decreased. So they're heavily relying now on those pledges.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're trying to make adjustments. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. PBS has not. I got to be careful because I have some really good people that I know that work there. It's not their fault. It's not like they have good employees. It's just the situation is just difficult.
It's bigger than them.
It's bigger than them.
Yeah, it's a bigger issue. Even for all the news outlets. I mean, there's so many places to get news now anyways, or let me put you air quotes news, different information that I guess I can't box everyone back into the traditional media sources. And maybe that's not what we need.
So John is mentioning Jim Hightower, former Secretary of Agriculture of Texas. So that's a good newsletter. Okay. I haven't, but that is something that I will look into.
Yeah.
You know anything about Jim Hightower?
Nope.
Oh, wait a minute. The last name sounds familiar. I think I might know him, or if not him, his son.
I know Texas Tribune. I know there's like some Austin Statesman. There's a few like that locally. Yeah. So yeah. Well, not locally like Houston, you know what I mean? Local Texas.
Yeah, I think if anything, this is a good time to try to get some good information. I know it's like super crowded and there's a million outlets out there, but at least now we have options, right, where we can kind of just see and vet these folks, right? I wouldn't say you have to stick to one. I think you might have to look into several and then kind of cross compare and be like, all right, well, I think now I have a better understanding of what this story is about. And also, too, I also understand and acknowledge that not everybody has time to read all this stuff, right? Because it takes time. Yeah. And so I wouldn't try to, I do think it's important that people at least try to read a little bit. I know reading has definitely gone down in recent years, and I've been struggling with that as dealing with marketing and whatnot. And in the written content is so good, and it allows you to get information out a lot faster, right? Instead of having to deal with production, right? It's like, okay, because you don't want to read, now I have to put this camera here, or if not a camera, put, a bunch of graphics and do all this editing and all this other stuff. And it's like, it would be, I think in order to get good content that is created by people who are not video editors, right? Who spent most of their time just out in the field.
Yeah.
Then I think you would need to read more. And I don't know any other way around saying that other than just the fact that you just need to just read more.
Yeah. Read and then come back and discuss on platforms like this and our show here. We're always welcome to other stories too. So send us some stuff.
Kofa.
Yeah, Kofa's in the
Salute.
chat. Salute, brother. Thanks for jumping.
He had a great show today.
Oh yeah.
You guys need, if you haven't, you missed his live stream.
I did not want to leave.
Yeah, no, Kofa had a good.
Like, okay, we have to go for our show.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff. You guys haven't seen him, and we have a link to Kofa's YouTube channel on our channel. Mm-hmm. And so if you guys want to see him, you just go to our channel, and then it says great channels, and you'll see his YouTube channel there.
Yeah, definitely check him out. It's been some real life game.
Yeah, seriously. And actually, since we brought up Kofa, he had a good point about chess games, and I'm wondering if this is just another iteration of that, right? Like maybe causing all this division and whatnot is all just a massive smokescreen, and people are just making moves, and we are just sitting here not even paying attention to the game. Like maybe there's some bigger things at play.
And then our people for sure. Yeah,
because especially if we just are talking about black folks, we miss a lot. I don't like saying that, but we do miss a lot. Like we don't really.
We have a lot of distraction. We have a lot of stuff going on, and within our own community or communities of us, like. But that makes sense. To miss some, we might not have time. That goes along with what you said earlier about even the reading though, or keeping up with news and stuff.
And my grandmother
have other issues.
My grandmother has a really bad joke. She said, if you want to hide something from the black people, just put it in a book.
She don't say that, does she?
Granny,
Oh
you can't say stuff like that.
No. That's the general populace now anyways, but...
She's also really old school, though. She's
That's
old.
super old school.
She's old as dirt.
That's right. That's why you read, synthesize, and bring it out here.
There we go. But no, I think that's... I have a feeling, man, that's probably something in there, that there's probably some bigger things at play, and we are just going to miss it.
Sometimes we're not paying attention. And they've got us so wrapped up with this whole... well, before I say that, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I was going to kind of tie it back to the climate stuff. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I would like us to do is to get more familiar with what's happening globally, and then start acquiring skills. I know one of the things that I found this young guy, smart dude, he was trying to teach people how to farm.
Okay.
And he's like, our ancestors used to farm, and we just lost this information. But I think farming is probably going to be more important later on, maybe 5 or so years from now, when especially as food starts to get more scarce and more expensive, you need to figure out how to eat.
Yeah.
And I think, that might be a bigger play later on if stuff gets bad. If it doesn't get bad, then you just gained a new skill and it's all good.
Right.
But if it does get bad, then you at least, you have a tool in your toolbox.
It doesn't hurt to be prepared.
Yeah.
That would probably be one of the things that I would say. I hate to use the words they, but I'm going to say they have probably kept that from us of like, because, now going back to kind of partially what you're saying and I'm saying about the what is for black people, what is, they put in the or society, oh, this is what is for you. Die is for you. Diversity and equity, inclusion, or whatever that BS shit is, it's for you. We need to focus on black women. You need to focus on this and that. And it's just like, Stop telling
me what
we have other things that we want to work on. Or if you really want to talk black women, we can do that.
Yeah,
but we're not going to have the same conversation we think.
But I'll hear that out from a black woman that I have relation to. But it's like as far as some random person, especially liberal white folks.
Yeah.
I'm like I'm. You guys are not the arbitrators of information on that one. Like this is not your lane.
Because they want to educate, right? Or educate and all this other stuff. So as far as us not knowing for the climate change, I think because they have us distracted with stuff like that with the DEI and was it critical race theory, a bunch of stuff that I'm like, I don't have any interest in that. And I would like to see if there's bigger things at play because I feel like I've lost a lot of time, not even just in that, and just interpersonal relationships and issues for another day.
Yeah.
That we could be handling if we're looking at making bigger steps in life. So
Yeah.
the farming would be one, or just learning how to manage with the finances and be able to have more later. Sorry, go ahead.
Copa was saying that that's a great question, though. Yeah, man, you inspired that question. So it really is thanks to you. But yeah, I think the farming thing might be a big play. And like I said, I don't know the future. I don't know if things are really going to get bad like that. Obviously, only God really knows the future on that one.
Absolutely.
But, it doesn't hurt to be prepared, or at least try to be prepared. I know John in the comment section just said that he grows some of his own food. He highly recommends it. Yeah, honestly,
yeah.
it's just putting some control back into your hands, right? Like we're getting too heavily dependent, especially when things get bad. Because that is, if y'all have done any research on different civilizations, especially when things get tough, one of the things that happened in Somalia, reason why we have a bunch of Somali immigrants here and refugees, but one of the ways that they control the people is through controlling food. And so if you control the food, you control the people. And so that is something that is, something that we definitely need to look at.
Yeah.
And at least, have something in our back pocket in case things get rough, because that is the quickest way to control a populace, is to control their food source.
I think to some extent they are controlling us then with a lot of the processed foods and the health and some of these endless research on people's health problems. I'm like, it's the sugar, it's the fat, it's the other stuff. I'm guilty of consuming a bunch of that over time. But as far as them not coming out and saying the government or, some other entity actually pushing forward that, hey, we should do things in moderation. It's just not there. It's lacking. And
yeah,
which I know goes down probably to the family.
Well,
But,
I think the bigger issue with that one is the FDA.
Oh gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
the FDA. I don't know what the issue with the FDA is. I don't know if it's because they don't have enough staff or what. I'm not sure what the issue is, but they tend to miss stuff a lot, and they end up being late a lot. A lot of the recalls are heavily dependent on people actually opening up investigations on their end.
Oh.
A great example, right? We had E. coli breakout in some strawberries, and I'll leave the product, the company out of it. But
Okay. Better one than me.
the only reason why this was even brought to the FDA's attention is because there was too many people complaining to the FDA, and then they started to do an investigation. Another one, which is something that not necessarily food, but in a similar situation, this dentist was creating this device called the forward mouth moving device.
Okay.
And so it's supposed to help people who have a small top roof to basically grow out the roof of their mouth, so that they could bite better.
Okay.
Right. This thing ends up just messing people's teeth up, right? Just jacked up the whole mouth, right? Craziness. It was not FDA approved. The FDA didn't get involved until you had thousands of people, and then there was a news story that finally came out of a package of showing this lady who was a flute. No, she played clarinet, and how her career is ruined because of this thing.
Wow.
Then the FDA is now doing an investigation, but it's like they're late to the party on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So trying to.
They're late, then the news is late, and then we were late on hearing on it.
Trying to, I don't want to say to not rely on them, because we need something to help regulate these things, but I'll just leave it at that. They're typically late,
Okay.
right? So if kind of like to John's point, if you can grow some of your own food, what's in your food.
Oh yeah.
Right. You know, especially if you're growing soil, which I didn't know you grow soil. That's a whole different thing I learned
I'm
from.
gonna have to look that up.
Hey, that guy. This is a guy. He calls himself compost man or something like that.
Okay.
But he like uses banana peels and a bunch of other stuff, and he ends up like several months he'll be growing.
Oh, I think
this rich soil, especially if you live in a place like Texas that has a bunch of clay and stuff. This soil sucks. You can't grow anything in this. But yeah, if you have like that, then you got rich, dark soil, that's the good stuff. Like in Wisconsin, they have that. Like you can dig your whole hand in it. And it's like it's soft and pliable. That's the type of stuff you want to put food in. And so, yeah, that's
okay.
Oh, Kofa said, yes, I have to start collecting actual seeds. I'm telling you, man, I need to get on this too, like for real. He's talking about the GMO stuff as well. Yeah. Because the GMO is a problem, right? Fertilizer.
Yeah.
There's some lawsuits with different types of fertilizers right now, right? Causing cancer and whatnot. And so,
be careful.
You do. And a lot of it is just our bodies are not meant to be around all these chemicals. Like this is not,
for
it can't handle it.
Time. Yeah.
And so, the growing your own food thing, I got to start making a move on that real quick, especially with this whole climate stuff. I didn't know how much of it was happening all at once.
Yeah.
Recently. And so, for sure. I don't have a green thumb or anything like that. So this will be a learning experience for me.
Oh gosh.
Because I don't know anything. The first thing about that. So I've done research. I don't know. I haven't actually put my hand on it. But no, it's important. And especially for us, I hate the fact that when I was doing community outreach in certain parts of Houston, and the fact that a lot of our people are in food deserts, and I was like, I didn't even understand what a food desert was. And it's like, how do you not have a grocery store here at all? Right? And I was like, this could be resolved if we just knew how to grow our own food.
Yeah.
Then it's like, we don't need a Kroger to be in here. We don't need a Publix. We don't need a Winn-Dixie. We don't need a H-E-B or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. Right? I got my little backyard. I got some water.
Away. That's fine.
Take it away. Have access to fresh food. Shout outs to Huey. In Fifth Ward with the farmers market.
Yeah.
Anytime she needs help, I'm always there for her because she's doing good work over there. But that's the type of stuff we need.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we're I guess not only damaging the environment, we're damaging ourselves by not taking better care. And that one, I think we can have a little bit more control of ourselves, what we intake, and try to work on the environment on a smaller scale. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say earlier in the conversation, I had mentioned the Atlanta, what is it called? The hailstorm thing. Kofa, let us know if you experienced that or if you were in town at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier in the spring, we heard something about some golf-size hailstorm.
John says there's a lot of good farmers on YouTube sharing information on how to grow stuff.
Ooh.
Homestead Heart is a really good one. All right, I'll have to check that one out.
We might document some of our journey. I'll put it in the community post.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
So, talking about growing seeds and whatnot, one of the things that we also have to grow is our like and subscribe button.
Oh my gosh. Tap the notification bell so you get notifications.
Y'all knew that
Thanks
was coming.
for rolling through. Go back to community posts.
Yes.
Answer the polls.
Shout out to everybody. Stay safe. Hopefully you we gave you guys some positive things to look at. I know it's getting rough out there, but hopefully we can give you all some value. So
Oh, one last comment in there before.
Kofa, the hailstorm. Yep. I literally just finally got a quote from your windows got busted.
Wow.
Sorry, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out Kofa, his YouTube channel. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.